A new documentary is shining light on dyslexia. Left Behind is the story of 5 New York City mothers determined to establish the first public school for children with learning differences. The film is produced by Green Hummingbird Entertainment and Velvet Strand and is directed by Toomey. Take a look.
All of the signs of a learning disability were interpreted as behavioral problems.
In a city like New York, in a school system that is over 70% children of color, the fact that a major portion of them are just never going to read is offensive to me.
And joining us now to talk about the film is Naomi Peña, who is featured in the film, and director Toomey. Welcome. It is so powerful. I watched it and I was so touched, and it's really going to change a lot of people's minds, you know? So thank you for putting this out. And Anna, how did you get involved with this project?
So I first became aware of this issue when my son was diagnosed with dyslexia when he was in first grade. And I realized, you know, the public school that he was in was not able to recognize it, diagnose it, and educate him in the way that he needed to. And when I realized that 20% of the population has dyslexia and the public school system is not educating them, I felt I had to tell the story of all of those kids being left behind and why this is happening. And so that's, you know, and I read an article about these women who were setting out to start the first public school for dyslexic kids in New York City. And I thought, I'm going to follow their journey.
And Naomi, you have 4 kids who are dyslexic, and you talk about the moment that you realized you really had to fight for change.
Yeah, I think, you know, I am a firm believer in the public school system. I was at the time president of my school board for 5 years. You know, they say get involved. I became a poster child of involvement. But quickly, when I started to see that my children were struggling with dyslexia and the significant gaps that existed in the public school to support those students, I saw myself fighting and advocating more than I would have hoped. And along my 18-year journey to this date, I kept encountering more people that had similar stories. So when the opportunity came up to pitch and advocate for a public school, I was on board.
And Anna, what surprised you most during this journey directing this film and being around these mothers?
What surprised me most at first was the statistic that 50% of incarcerated individuals are dyslexic. So you have 20% of the population and 50% that are dyslexic in prisons. So I sort of, you know, wanted to know, how does that happen? And so, you know, the journey, that shocked me. And when you look at families from lower incomes, marginalized communities, you can see a clear path of these kids being labeled as having behavioral issues, these kids as problems, and they lose interest in school. They're not being told that they are valued there. And so you can see how that happens, that they end up in trouble, end up in prison. And so for me, that was shocking. And I really wanted to, you know, we follow a single mom throughout the film and all of the obstacles that she has to overcome to get her child the help he needs. To diagnose a child is $8,000.
Yes.
And that's, you know, that's just not, that's prohibitive for majority of the people in this country. So I think it's those numbers that shocked me most. And and that's why I felt like I just had to tell the story.
No, definitely. I remember one mom was saying to get evaluated, she had to spend $15,000. I mean, who can do that, you know?
Yeah.
So, Naomi, what was the most frustrating part of your journey trying to establish a school for kids with dyslexia?
I think it was trying to get people to understand the magnitude and the gravity of this story. I think a lot of people have created narratives. I say unintentionally because I always assume best intentions, but there was my children were often told to me that they were just lazy or they were disengaged or they didn't care about their education. And assumptions were made about them, assumptions were made about me. So I had to work double as hard, but my children benefited from that, right? They have a mom that's involved and is an advocate, and I know people, and if I don't know them, I find them. So I think it was just trying to elevate that this is, as you will see in the film, our stories originated from our own personal experience, but the benefits that this would have is across the city for thousands of other children that won't benefit from this like our own. It would be for everyone.
And Anna, what messages do you hope that viewers will take away from this film?
I think, it's a real film of inspiration. These women, what they accomplished was incredible. They took on this system and they won. So I think my hope is that across the country, people will be inspired to know that they can create change. And I think that's what I really hope. That's the power of film, right? It's the beauty of film, that you can tell these stories and inspire others.
And really also inspire all sorts of, I think, different movements, because you really showed what it takes to actually go to the politician face to face and find them and demand these things. So Naomi, you and the other moms, with your efforts, helped create the the South Bronx Literacy Academy. Share what the response has been like.
It is the one thing. This work is hard.
Yeah.
We have our own school support nonprofit, Literacy Academy Collective. But when parents reach out to me and just tell me the stories of progress, there was one child who was just so angry that he couldn't read. He was really angry. And within months, mom called me to let me know that the therapist is asking, what are we doing in the schools? Because he's just a different boy. And this is just stuff that happens within 30 days.
Yeah.
As the children start to feel successful and start to see that they can accomplish reading, then they start blossoming. They start reading street signs and the dreaded reading the text messages from their parents. So it's one of those special glimmers of hopes that when I see them and I hear them, I share them with the team just to remind us of this work is hard, but we're doing it in service of them.
Well, it's incredible. You have one school right now in the Bronx, and tell me what you hope for the future.
Our goal is to open up more schools. We are on track to open Central Brooklyn Literacy Academy in the next fall, and Manhattan, Queens to come.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see everything grow. It's such a pleasure to meet both of you, Naomi Peña and Toomey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
And Left Behind, it's going to have its New York City premiere at Doc NYC on November 20th, and will hit theaters nationwide in January.